Okay, we're going to be having OHBOY in green playing on the north against KSC on the south. I always want to say KFC. Sorry if I slip. So OHBOY are going to be bringing.
Ho ho
Okay.
ho ho
So
ho.
okay, that's my first thought was that's expensive.
Yes, it
So,
is.
so they're going to be bringing a Schlieffen and a Kremlin, which they've paid a lot of points for. They're going to be bringing a Gibraltar, a Zhao, and then 3 destroyers, Daring, and 2 Hallants. So will they be able to make 2 battleships work?
Well, we're going to find out.
If there's a way to go, it would have something to do with
KSC?
women, whips, and
KSC's got a bit of an uphill battle to climb, coming in with a Conde, Minotaur, Venezia, a Stalingrad, probably the nearest thing to a battleship they have. But gosh, if you're a Stalingrad, do you want to be looking at a Schlieffen bearing down on you? You probably don't. Fronted by Daring and Double Grozavoy. So literally every ship on their team, actually, I'm looking now, every ship on both teams has heals. Sometimes
That's a good point.
Sometimes you see destroyers in this format without a heal, but not in this game. Everybody's got one.
That is a very good point. The Minotaur for KSC is a radar miner.
I should be checking, but I'm just so used to players at this level taking radar miner, I just assume that it is.
Yeah, it's worth checking. Sometimes you might see them do something funky with a smoke miner, but usually it will be a radar. Interestingly, the radar miner is not going with a destroyer. That's unusual.
No, he seems like he's going to play mid, and I got to say, if I'm the radar minnow, like, radar minnow in this format, I think there's a lot of value in, right? But at the same time, the opposing team has paid for 2 battleships. So you have to be very frosty. Like, you got to be looking over your shoulder.
I guess they're going to put that mino in by that island to make sure it covers A, or at least the island at A.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to play kind of a mid position here, at least to have shots in to the backside of the A cap, presuming that someone wants to try to get in there. You're with the fancy mod. I don't think that Minotaur radar will extend to like the top corner of the A cap. Does it?
So I've got with the mod I've got installed, I can see where it goes to, and from where they are right now, it just touches the island in the cap.
Okay.
And it just reaches the bottom of the island in E6.
It takes right at 2 minutes for KSC to lock up control of A and C, but with all the firepower that OHBOY is throwing at A, you can't expect that to stay very long.
So both teams, this is a fairly symmetrical, not symmetrical, but fairly evenly balanced
Indeed.
Distribution of ships here. So it's going to be really hard for either of these teams to push. So I don't think we're going to see a hard push on either of the home caps. So it's basically going to come down to playing for A.
Agreed.
We might see the Kremlin. We might see matchmaking there, push in the battleship.
Yeah, I think most of the action here is going to take place at A. In fact, that wouldn't shock me to eventually see maybe the Venezia rotate back towards mid somewhere where he can impact the battle a little more from there.
The other option potentially is that KSC take that Venezia at the 9 line, and they start to put pressure on B. That way they force the Zhao and the Halland to kite. The destroyers have spotted each other. Venezia. Ooh, big smack there from the Zhao on the Grozavoy. Sap in on the Halland also.
Oh my goodness. Big sap hit on tractor.
Okay, Kremlin did go into the cap. So KSC are going to try and whittle that Kremlin down.
Yep, Kremlin in the cap, getting some resets there from Koyose's Hyundai. He did get a fire out of that salvo.
So the problem, like we've seen this before in other matches, and we've talked about this kind of thing before, but when you take a big ship like that and you have to huddle it next to an island so that you, A, cap, and B, don't get whittled down by focus fire, it kind of removes your ability to shoot a little bit.
It certainly limits the targets you're going to have access to, because you're reducing your possible firing angles.
But it also means you've got a Kremlin in a cap, and Kremlin at close range is really, really, really nasty.
Pretty blade terrifying.
Yeah. So you've also got to be very cautious. If you're KSC and you're trying to approach the cap, you've got to be very careful.
Hatake's Minotaur with a radar up here, pushing Basti back out of the middle of the board. Taking
Schlieffen.
taking some Schlieffen fire under the Schlieffen secondaries and his main battery.
So Schlieffen secondaries will pen pretty much everything on that Minotaur.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, main battery as well. Minotaur managing to find an island to block the line of sight there.
Got some nice LOS box and farming some damage off of that Schlieffen. Getting about 10, 12k there. All in.
Okay, so that's with A in green hands currently. That's OHBOY will win if nothing else changes in 5.5 minutes.
And there's
But
there's the lead change.
Daring of Raiden Shogun throwing torps up towards the position of the Halland for OHBOY.
Nothing doing though. He's all good.
Totally fine.
We didn't.
Got its Hydra on.
I was just going to say we didn't talk about it, but there's a Gibraltar on the on OHBOY's lineup as well. They're the only team I think we've seen field that ship in the entire event.
Well, they're obviously bringing it twice. They're obviously confident in it.
I will say that's a ship that I don't own yet. In fact, I've never even played it on my press account. I really should give it a go because it looks interesting.
Yeah, I can't remember. I certainly haven't played it very much. I can't remember if I've played it at all, actually. There's so many new ships recently that I'm like, oh, have I played that? I'm not even sure if I've played that.
They're farming some damage here off of Depa's Kremlin. As it looks like he might take one in the stern. No, he's gonna move up and just dodge it.
So this is, they've got to make a decision now. Do they keep this Kremlin in the cap as a deterrent and just accept that it's going to just gradually take chip damage, or do they get it out of there? I think they'll leave it.
I think you leave it. I think you leave it in there. Let him absorb as much damage as he can. Hatake taking some good hits from astern. Because
this Minotaur being this close to the Schlieffen is making me really nervous.
As a caster, you're clenched up.
Yeah.
But one of the things I love about driving Depa's Kremlin in there is because essentially, as long as he sits there, you're ticking up points. Period. And like you said, you're under 4 minutes now. Do you think they're going to be able to whittle down a Kremlin in 4 minutes?
Well, that's it. And if let's say the daring decided to try and get into the cap, like that Kremlin can just poke its head around the corner and it's going to hit pretty much all of its shells.
Like if you had a daring, go ahead.
Go ahead. Kremlin's accuracy is really, really nasty at close range. And so if you're a destroyer and it's got HE loaded, you're basically dead.
If you had Raiden's daring in a position you could get reliable conga line torps on him, as an example, then possibly you'd have a shot at the Kremlin. But you're now down to 3 minutes, and I don't think you've got it. They need a ship kill to stay in the game. Or to be standing on a cap.
So they can't get that daring far enough north in order to get those conga line torps off because there's not a line really.
Yeah.
And the Halland will just spot the daring over the water. The Grozovoy is trying to back up to do the same thing on the other side, but it doesn't have straight line torps. And the daring is there, so that Kremlin is actually pretty well protected.
It's firmly on KSC to make a play here. They've got less than 3 minutes to make something happen.
They're trying to do what I said and push up the 9-10 with the Venezia and the Grozovoy. But the Zhao and the Halland are not making that easy.
No, and what I don't like about pushes like this on the 9-10 lines, they're so far away. Even if you were to dev strike this Zhao right now, you're still 2 minutes away from standing on the B cap. And
totally,
it's too late by then.
So
Schlieffen took some torpedoes.
EU teams of old used to, have this thing of once you get to 800 points, if you're not already making the winning play, you've lost. And we've just passed 800 points.
Yeah, that's actually pretty reasonable as they've brought Floop's Grozovoy up for some smoke for Hatake's Minnow. They're trying to push Eternal Titan's Schlieffen out of position.
They're also pushing the Conde up towards the Kremlin.
Oh, this could be exciting.
So Gibraltar's coming around the corner to try and do something about that, I think.
Well, actually, are they trying to assassinate the Gibraltar?
I don't know.
Because the Conde is literally turning broadside in front of this Kremlin, and he's going to get away with it.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what that push was intended to do initially. I think it's morphed into...
Oh, he didn't have the AP loaded. I'm surprised at that. I think they were trying to push the Gibraltar. They succeeded in pushing him out.
Conde pops its reload booster. I'm trying to keep an eye on the middle of the map as well because some stuff going on down there.
Yeah.
Conde's
They're farming.
torps,
They're
dodge
just about
farming.
got the Schlieffen killed. He's almost off the board. 300 HP. There he goes. That's a big kill that KSC needed that keeps them in the game.
Conde takes some torps and gets kind of stuck on the corner there. Gibraltar down to 27 and healing.
There was a good solid hit from the AP. I was wondering when he was going to switch over. But now the Kremlin is moving up.
Yep.
Kremlin is now moving around.
The Conde's got to go forwards. It's the lesser of two evils.
Yep.
Because you do not want that Kremlin shooting you.
If you look at the map, it's full send time for KSC. Venezia and Grozovoy headed to B. Stalingrad, Minotaur, and Grozovoy trying to assassinate Basti's daring here in the middle of the map, and I think they're going to get him.
I think Basti's in trouble. There's 3 ships right on the tail of Basti. Yep, 5-2-1.
Oh, yeah, he's going out.
Down.
2 kills now for KSC, but they still trail.
They do. At 1 minute 29, they're not going to get the Kremlin off the cap.
They are not. He might take a torpedo. He's going to take 1 in the stern.
So it doesn't matter if OHBOY lose a ship, I don't think, as long as they keep one of those 2 caps.
They've got to stay on the caps, but at this point, what I'm surprised at is that that KSC isn't making a bigger play for B. They got 60 seconds to get onto B. They aren't going to do it.
No, and they're also trying to get this Kremlin, but 60k on a Kremlin, you're just not going to.
No, you're not going to get that in less than a minute. Not without some kind of severe torp strike that they don't have access to.
And they kind of need to do both. They need to get the Kremlin,
and they can't lose the Conde.
No, they need to get the Kremlin. They need to get into the A cap, and they need to get into the B cap.
They can't afford to lose the Conde. They're making a play now for the Holland. Raiden getting into a point blank gunfight with Doc's Holland. Doing really good work against the Holland. Are they going to push the Conde up to secure the kill? They are. They're going to push the Conde up to try to secure the kill on the Holland. They get him. But it's still not a lead change.
So we're 927 versus 918, 920. It's really, really close right here.
The Conde's heel is down for 60 seconds, and he's exposed broadside to a Gibraltar. He's got to get his bow around.
There isn't 60 seconds left in the match.
No. Kremlin shots coming in on the Conde.
Stalingrad I think is going to try and maybe ram the Kremlin.
They don't. The Conde goes down. That's the game. That's the game right there. Wow.
Okay.
OHBOY only getting 1 kill, but they get the flagship. They get the opposing flagship, right? And because they held the cap so long, they put all that pressure on KSC and get the win.
So, for the first time this tournament, I think, we're going to be seeing Mountain Range.
Looks like we are. That was a great game.
That was great.
We talked about it. I really like the KSC play, but again, I come back to I really feel like those 2 guys trapped on the 10 line, their inability to get back onto the cap as quick as they could. And I think the other thing that surprised me was that Floops, after they assassinated Basti in the middle of the board, right? They killed Basti. At that point, you have 3 ships with clear, easy access to the B cap off to your right, off to the northeast. Why not drive over there and pick it up? You're not going to kill the Kremlin in 60 seconds, but if you get the cap, you buy yourself more time. And they didn't. That's not the play they made. I was surprised.
Yeah, like you said, you got to bear in mind the travel time of the ships, and if you're like 3-4 map squares away from a cap, if you're not already moving, you're just not going to get there in time. So the teams do need to bear, and there's lots of other things to consider. Of course, you can't just walk into a cap necessarily, but you do need to consider that it takes the ships time to do things.